Hi, everyone. Welcome to the At Hersta Mom podcast. I'm Lauren Rose, and if I sound a little weird, that's because the weather can't decide what it wants to do around here in Dallas. It's either 35 or 80, so my sinuses are kind of all over the place. Today's guest is Carrie Conrad. Carrie's a dedicated defense and violence prevention expert and owner of Beating Disaster, a Detroit-based specialty school offering in-person and online services on prevention, protection, and defense specifically for mothers. We are going to have her on to talk about that at another time, but today we're going to talk to her because she also spent years struggling with migraines, chronic back pain, chemical sensitivities, and allergies. Thanks for coming on, Carrie.
Thank you so much for having me, Lauren.
Yeah, so I'd love for you just to give us a little background. Tell us about your years struggling with these things.
I really kind of thought about how to revisit some of this stuff. And today I know it's very careful to be mindful about how I express this and to reflect on where I've been. That time, I can give you facts of being bedridden, of having to cancel work, not being able to show up when I really want to or when I'm really excited about something, physical pain, not knowing if eating food was going to make me more sick or if it was going to nourish my body. Like you mentioned, my profession, when you're physically working with people in chronic pain, it makes it really difficult to be available to serve that person at the capacity that I feel they deserve. So there's a lot of canceling, a lot of not showing up, a lot of being in bed. Sometimes my mind is working perfectly fine and my body just won't cooperate. And however, when I reflect on those years, though, of struggling, I look at, one, it took me a lot to be able to even articulate what was wrong and what my pain was. I just knew that life was really hard for me. Even when I was young, I was sick a lot. I just remember not feeling well and showing up anyway and pushing through. And I just kept ignoring and stuffing and pushing until my body just refuse to cooperate anymore. And like I said, I refuse to acknowledge any struggles. I refuse to, and all of these symptoms force me to stop and look at what my life looked like. It forced me to look at what I ingested. It forced me to look at what kind of products I put on my skin. It forced me to look at the entertainment that I chose. It forced me to look at the friendships that I chose. And, it forced me to find out where I have control. It forced me to become self-employed because I'm unemployable, because I can't consistently show up and do the tasks that are required of me. So I can say that for me, those struggles allowed me to really assess what I wanted out of my life and what I wanted my life to look like and what I couldn't do and there's so much that I actually could do. I just was too busy staring at how things were rather than where I wanted to go or where I wanted to be.
I love that, you had to do it because your body just quit. That's what happened to me when my chronic pain took over. I had chronic pain for 2 decades and just pushed through and then dealt with it. And then there just came a point where my body couldn't do it anymore. And so that's when I really, sought help and went inpatient to a pain recovery program. But I love that you took that time not to just reflect on how miserable you were, but to reflect on your life and be proactive about what changes needed to be made. I think that's really cool. You deserve kudos for that.
Well, it was really helpful that the type of help that I sought out actually made me more helpless. So eventually you to a breaking point, you know, and through all of this, I've learned that breaking is not bad. You have to shatter a foundation to create a new foundation. When the foundation isn't working, it's not working. Like you can put all the band-aids on it you want, but like there has to be this foundation. And like I said, this forced me to reassess everything about my life, everything, all of it. And it started with food, because it's like, oh, this food is killing me, you know? And then it's like, oh, wait, my makeup's killing me. Oh, wait, and every time I looked at one, it just made sense to look at another. And it was just like, I just quit. I just quit, I just quit with all the topical stuff. I mean, I don't know that it was necessary for me to learn how to make all my own stuff. I did. I think it was a really helpful part of the emotional journey because it gave me something solution oriented to focus on. I focused on where I had control, rather than doctors just saying, oh, I don't know what's wrong with you. You're probably just all in your head and you're just gonna, I don't know what, you're fine. All the tests come back fine. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I am grateful for the experience to have fallen through the cracks because I was misdiagnosed or not diagnosed, or, I didn't get like a helpful doctor until I was 30. And then I had a helpful doctor. Maybe I wasn't ready for a helpful doctor before then. Maybe I wasn't capable of listening before then, maybe I wasn't ready to make changes before then. I don't know. But today, my perception is like, I didn't have to be that sick for that long, but because I kept staring at how sick I was, I just couldn't be anywhere else except for right there, because I wasn't even willing to consider the possibilities because so many people had failed me and so many methods failed me that I just decided like, this is it. We'll just figure out how to be happy with this. And this wasn't very good, so I just did my best with this. And then because I chose to make the best out of it, like I think I came into a place where I could do better. I could get better.
What kinds of things were you trying that weren't helping you?
So I noticed the thing about that question is, it is absolutely helpful to hit a dead end. Like it is, so I mean, those dead ends were helpful because instead of wasting my energy in somewhere that's a dead end, you get to turn around and go try another path. So, and I think when it comes to causes of the types of symptoms that I had, sometimes there's logical explanations for them and sometimes there's illogical explanations for them. So what might be a solution for one person may or may not for the other. So I don't want to knock anything that I've tried because like, what a bummer if that's if that's the mode that connects with another person, that another person is like willing to connect with and heal through. I would hate to ruin that or taint that perception for them,
That makes sense. Yeah, I gotcha. So you don't have these issues anymore. What kinds of things contributed to your healing? I know you mentioned some of them. Were there others?
Well, we can go back to, again, like I pay attention to the food. I pay attention, when not to knock the people who have loved me and supported me throughout my life, but being surrounded by people who were so healthy, it was nauseating and uncomfortable and made my skin crawl. I can tell you that I personally believe that is like that foundation that we talked about. That's the foundation, is just being around people who felt better, did better, had a better attitude, had a better outlook, were willing, the people who believe that things could happen and things could change. And, I didn't. I just, like I said, I accepted this as my lot in life, and it's to be sick and in bed. And like I previously mentioned, like today I see like sometimes people need to rest. Sometimes people need to reflect. Sometimes people need to reassess priorities. Sometimes people need to recharge. Sometimes people need to gain appreciation for what is. And that's what that kind of stuff did for me. And the areas in which that was is through food. That's one of them. You know, today my food choices are much more intentional. They're much more intentional. I pay attention to where my food comes from, the process that went through, you know. I mean, shoot, even today, this isn't something that I would have ever thought to articulate, but right now, even the energy and attitude of the people processing that food, like that matters to me. It matters to me today. Do I think it's like mandatory? No. I don't think that's going to make or break somebody or make or break something, but it's important to me. Same thing with the products that I use. Where do they come from? What am I supporting? Like today I can say what I spend my money on, I'm really proud of. Those are intentional choices that I feel really good about. I feel really good about supporting entrepreneurs. I feel really good about helping women tell their stories and process theirs and grow and go beyond, you know, like I feel really good in investing in that. So let's see what else. So that's food. Same thing with learning, like I mentioned, learning how to make my own soaps and lotions and stuff like that. Like just learning about the process. Like today, if somebody gifts me a candle, I know what it takes to make that candle. There's appreciation and gratitude there. It's not just like, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, you can pay a lot more for a candle. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but for like a major name brand store that isn't made with intention, that isn't made with, you know, that does have sense in it that will make me feel sick, you know. And people have referred to me as like the canary and the mine. Like if there's something in something that can make somebody sick, like I'm the test. And all of the things that I found out were making me sick were things that you would hope would make people sick and make a U-turn and change. You know, like there's a lot of products and stuff on the market that are sold that are just, you know, like I try to be careful with big words or like accusations or anything like that, because I have no interest in knocking anybody's passions or journey or what brings excitement. If you have a candle that brings you joy and you bought it at a big store, you deserve to love your candle. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to take away from that. But at the same time, I appreciate a handmade candle. I appreciate, like, that's a huge part of the journey, is being intentional with everything, with the conversations I have, with the way I articulate myself, with the books that I read, which is really hard when my profession has to do with a lot of darkness.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, I can't imagine.
well, I don't have time to stare, that's for sure. You know, we look at a situation and assess my emotional and physical response to that situation and see where I have control and what I can do about it and what I just let go of. There's so much that we have control and power over, but we're just not programmed to see that. That's just not normal in society. It's just not normal. We just look, oh, you can't do that. You can't become an entrepreneur. You can't eat a diet that clean. That's not realistic. Like, how are you gonna go out into the world and do your day? Your kids won't eat that. Like, there's just a bunch of people who just tell you, you can't live your dreams. I'm sorry. It just doesn't, the world doesn't work like that. It can. It can.
So were you a parent when you were experiencing all this pain and illness?
That's when it really got to the point where it was debilitating, because you can put, you know, it's one thing to push through as an individual, but when there is a person who is depending on your emotional availability, kind of adds a layer, you know. And so, like, I did my best, which wasn't very good. And, you know, those were the years where my 2-year-old would be painting the windows. And I would just say, that sounds great. I'm glad you're having a good time, because I just couldn't really, wash the windows when I can, So I'm confident that those experiences have contributed to her being a person of strength and independence, and there's no room to feel guilty or sad about it. I can't fix it or change it, but it definitely it made the weight heavier. It made it a lot heavier. And it took me finding one person in particular. She told me to fake it, to fake emotional availability for my daughter. And she suggested that I set a timer. I set a timer for 5 minutes. And I'm like, that's so pathetic. Like that's it. Like 5 minutes. And I would set this timer for 5 minutes, and I would pretend to not be in pain, and I would pretend to be emotionally available, and I would play however this beautiful little 2-year-old wanted to play, no matter how horrible and dumb I thought it was. And I just don't connect. I'm not a good time. I don't want to be a good time. I don't want to have a good time. I thought her playing, she's very imaginative, and I'm not, even on a good day, and I would just, for 5 minutes, I'd go all in and fake it. And that was the beginning. That was the beginning of things getting better. It was because at 5 minutes, it's just, how sad. Five sorry minutes. And those 5 minutes, the effect that those 5 minutes had on this beautiful little person were incredibly profound. And then it got to the point where I wasn't setting the timer anymore. And then it got to the point where I wasn't faking it anymore. And I didn't know when those things happened. I didn't know when they happened. And then one day I realized, wow, I'm more emotionally available throughout the day than I am unavailable. Like, when did that happen? How did that happen? And it's just, like I said, I just focused on what I could do and where I had control, and seeing the effects of that effort. Just, it's kind of hard to stop. It's kind of hard to stop.
Yeah, I think my chronic pain has made my daughter even more compassionate than I think she already was. She loves taking care of me, and she's just so sweet. And I kind of, push through it too a lot of the times when I can. She wants to go play dolls, and so we modify tasks. She wants to play Barbies. I can't sit on the floor. I'll lie down on the bed and play Barbies with her. And usually 15 to 20 minutes of that, and she's good. Like, we can pause, and that's kind of what I've learned, is just being present is the most important thing for my daughter. She doesn't care if we're modifying tasks or if I'm lying down on the couch to play a board game. She just cares that she's getting the attention. So I'm glad that you started that.
Yeah. Today it's it's not related to chronic pain at all, but my kids are like, are you gonna work more? Are you gonna work more? Are you going in the basement again? The same things apply. I just make sure to, okay, I can open the paint. I can give them the paintbrush, and I can set it up to where I will throw everything away that they put paint on. So, you know what I mean? There we go. And then it's like, I got more kids, so I got to go work on another one now. And then it's like, okay, you get water. What do you want? What do you want with you? You want a spoon? How about a straw? Would you, because I mean, she's 2. She's almost 2. She's so happy. So there's water everywhere. And I'm like, I need to mop the floors. So you should play with water right here. Play with water right here.
Yeah. How did being sick and in pain affect your mental health?
Like, it led me to a breaking point eventually. It led me to a breaking point. And especially like seeking help that just wasn't helpful, or seeking help that cost me more than I received in return. I mean, It's just what it is. Like I said, those dead ends are valuable though, because I learned that when I try something one time, I always think it's horrible because everything sucks when you're in pain. So I don't, I like go for the rule of three. I'll do three. Like I go all in, I give my best you get 3 attempts. We'll go to 3 sessions. And if I don't like you as much on the 3rd session as I felt on the session, then we're going to consider something else, whether it's the same modality with a different person or whether, because I mean, like, it's just really hard to be friendly to people when you're hurting.
Mhm.
Hard.
Yeah, on my good mental health days, I can push through a good amount of pain. But on my bad mental health days, it just becomes impossible. I just can't do it. And so there's such a strong component to mental health and physical pain that I've noticed over the last several years.
What helped me was I just learned to lower the bar. I just learned to it's just like, we had this book that I read with my kids. I was a single mom at that time and I had a 2-year-old, I was single through like 2 through 6 or 7 years old. And we had this book and it was called My No, No, No Day. And I don't know the author off the top of my head, but and it's just about how this kid just has a really sucky day. And it was perfect because it gave a dialogue for both me and my daughter. So there were days where she's like, hey, it's a no, no, no day. And on a no, no, no day, we cancel everything that we can. And we just do the one thing that we really need to do. But we cancel everything else, and it gave her the compassion that you're talking about for me too. When I'm like, hey, it's a no, no, no day. So, we just lower the bar and it's like, okay, so if I'm going to stay home for self-care, how am I going to maximize the benefit of a self-care day? How can I do the best for the crap day? And that's just what we do. It's like, what, is there a movie? Is there and I watched a lot of movies with my daughter because that was the best that I had to give. And I could lay down on the couch and cuddle with her and watch a movie. And that's just what it was. And on a mental health, it might be 3 or 4 movies and we might stop and eat in between. And, and guess what we eat, it might be a bag of chips and some other junk, because I don't have it. And I just would give myself that grace. Today's a day of recovery. Today's a day to recharge and today's a day to rest. That's it. That's it. So that's what we're doing today. How can we do that? And, and just letting go. Like, why feel guilty over something I can't do? I can't do it. What's feeling bad about it going to do? It's not going to make it done. It's not going to get it done. It's not going to happen. So what can I do to feel better about it not working out? Think, all right, then, well, how about a happy movie? We don't have room for a sad story today. We've already got one. Thank you very much. It's time for something uplifting. Or I found kids movies that help me process, when I needed to process. What was that? Trying to think of the, my daughter would be like, Mom, we're not watching Inside Out,
I love Inside Out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, how many times did I watch that movie and just weep the whole way through because I have, I'd be like, that's my brain, like, just watching things fall apart, It's like, oh, well, tell my kids don't like that movie and it's my fault. So.
Well, so trauma is such a big part of my life, and I think my chronic pain as well. I stuffed my trauma down for decades, but I started on a healing journey a couple of years ago, and I'm still trying to parent a 10-year-old girl. What advice do you have for people who are trying to parent while we have unresolved trauma?
It's possible to look at it as an opportunity. Because now 10 is obviously not Daniel the Tiger age, but I learned emotional development. I learned emotional intelligence sitting right there watching Daniel the Tiger with my daughter. I didn't know this stuff. that was part of my problem, is that I had all these repressed emotions that I never did anything with or about. I just stuffed them and trudged through and pushed through and go, go, go. I'm a list maker and a box checker, and I get things done, and and like that's part of how I tanked, but it's kind of hard not to talk about my work right now, because I had to learn how to process and do self-care and learn my value, accept my value, set boundaries, speak up, work through PTSD. Like, I have to do all of this stuff with a little person. By the way, 10, that's rough. I had the compassion of like 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I have a 10-year-old now. She's 10 now, that same little girl. And 10 is rough, even when you're a superstar and all is well, But the thing is I get to learn alongside my children. I'm not going to impart skills that I don't have. Kids are just smarter than that. They're just smarter than that. But what I can do is I can teach my children about having humility, and I can teach my children about not needing to have all the answers, and I can teach my children about asking for help. I can teach my children about articulating the need for grace. I can teach my children what I'm learning, and how, even though I'm a grown-up, which is news to me, it's really baffling. I don't know what happened, but even like I'm the grown-up, I'm not done learning. I make mistakes. There's so much value in modeling to our children what to do on a bad day. There's so much value there. So I can choose to focus on what I do get to teach my child, what I do get to model for them. And P.S., guess what? The stuff that we're learning and trying to impart on our kids, those are the skills that aren't taught in the world. Those are the things that most people don't get, because they're too busy checking boxes and getting awards and reaching goals, and they don't learn those subtle things that are necessary for not only self-preservation, but also for having healthy relationships, for functioning in the world, for setting boundaries, for speaking up, for being true to ourselves, for acknowledging our limits, for taking responsibility for making mistakes, for where can you go learn grace for just accepting that my best is really sucky today? And this is what we got. So what kind of party are we going to throw about this? How are we going to make the best? Where can you learn that? Who teaches that? Who cares to learn that? I mean, if that's not a valuable life lesson, I don't know what is. Because guess what? I don't care who you are, chronic pain, no chronic pain. If you're a superstar, at some point in time, everyone experiences something that sucks.
Yeah, I love the idea of the life lessons that we can teach our kids. I think I'm teaching my daughter definitely humility, because she knows that I make mistakes and I always apologize for them. And also, taking care of myself, getting help. I mean, like, she understands I take medications to be the best version of myself. She understands that I go to therapy to be the best version of myself. And I think she's learning those things from me. So it makes me feel a lot better, maybe about the things that maybe if I were completely, if I were farther down on my healing journey, maybe I wouldn't be able to teach her as well.
So, as somebody who works with people of trauma, as somebody who's experienced so much about life that is not exciting or enjoyable, like, one thing about recovering from trauma or working through grief or any of that is that there's value in every single part of that journey. Like I said, those dead ends are valuable. Being at a place of helplessness and hopelessness is valuable, because if I'm not there, then I'm not open to changing and doing anything different. So even though and I mean, there's a ton of value in teaching our children what not to do too. I mean, think about it. How many things did your parents do that you're like, I am not doing that. I am adamant. And those are good lessons, even though they suck learning them. They're still good lessons that our children get to benefit. So if we're at that point in our journey where we're that lesson to our child, where they're collecting data saying, I'm never going to be like that, good for them. Our children, you know what I mean? So even in our darkest, even in the worst, even in the hopelessness, even in the helplessness, even in the lack of capacity to do anything, we can still be teaching our children to be better than we are. And who doesn't want that? What parent does not want that for their child?
Funny, I just had the conversation with my daughter. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday, where we were talking about some of the mistakes that my parents made. And I said, and this is why, we try to do this instead with you. And I said, and then with your kids, whatever mistakes, Daddy and I make, you can do something differently with your kids.
Well, I can tell you, I have 3 kids. The 2-year-old doesn't really say too much. The 3-year-old is recently saying a lot. My 10-year-old, she says everything. And my children are very open with where they think we're making mistakes. And then I get to model, thank you for your input. And like, maybe it's the wrong time, or you know what I mean? Like, let's talk about this at another time. Right now, in the middle of a dinner with friends is not the, you know what I mean? Like, there's lessons in all of it, but my children feel safe saying, hey, when you did that, that sucked for me. That was really hard for me. And that was not, I couldn't be more proud that I wasn't safe for me to do that when I grew up. And it's not because my parents are bad or they did anything wrong. It's just that it was not safe for me to say, hey, you screwed up. And my children freely, probably on the wrong end, they're probably too far over, but again, because of my experiences, I'm very grateful, even if it is whatever, you know what I mean? Like, whatever, they have opportunities to learn how to say it better or nicer or more gently. They have lots of practice. So hooray, they're getting on telling people where they could do better.
Yeah, perspective.
Better than that, though, it's not about how somebody else could do better. It's more about how they are able to articulate how someone's choices and behavior has affected them, because that's taking responsibility for their experience rather than saying, hey, you're my problem, So
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for people living with chronic pain and chronic illness?
Kind of something that we already touched on. Wherever you are in that journey, just be where you're at. And that sounds like a death sentence, depending on where you are in that journey. That sounds horrible, because I want to be anywhere else except for in pain. Anywhere. I mean, especially, like I said, there was a time where I would sit down and look at food and wonder if I was going to be able to keep it down. I mean, it was 50-50. And just like, I was afraid of food. I was afraid of food. So, and that's a really sucky place to be. But the thing is when I'm sick of being where I'm at, that's when I'm willing to look and say, where can I go from here? Because no matter where I'm at, there is somewhere you can go. No matter where you are, there is somewhere. But that doesn't mean we're willing to go there. It doesn't mean we're ready to go there. It doesn't mean we're on our way there. Sometimes being exactly where we're at is what it takes to gain the momentum, to get the energy, to get the oomph, to go from here to there. So, and when you're at 0 in that journey, that's obviously like a hard place to be, but that also means, like, when I'm starting that journey, there's been times in my journey where I make a list of all the things that I'm doing well that I'm proud of, and I write that down every day, and it hurt. It hurt. It emotionally hurt. It was horrible. Like I said, surrounding myself with those people that make me feel sick because they're just so freaking happy and positive, I want to throw up. Like, that That's the stuff that helped me come to believe that I could have something different, that it was possible to have something other than chronic pain and being bedridden and my feeling guilt and shame about my child. Like I don't feel that today, and I don't know that I'm any better of a parent today. you know what I mean? Like I'm probably the same kind of parent, honestly. I just don't obsess over all the mistakes that I'm making. I acknowledge that my mistakes can lead to her being a better person. And I give myself credit for all the stuff that I did that I didn't know I could do. That. My daughter's 10, she was asking questions about death the other day, and the answers that came out, I was like, whoa, I didn't know that stuff was in there. Like, what a great answer. Where did that come from? I didn't know. Like I give myself credit for just showing up and setting the timer for 5 minutes. That's just whatever I focus on is what grows. So I acknowledge the pain. I feel the pain. I accept the pain. I try and I do want to know like the cause of that, but at the same time, that's not where I stare. I stare at the opportunities. I stare at the people who are doing things that I don't think is logically possible. Those are the people I stare at. What is their problem? How are they so happy? What is their deal? How the heck? There's no way they understand where I'm at. The people I'm like irritated. They irritate me because I'm offended that they're so filled with joy. And you're saying you've been in my seat. I don't know about that. Whatever. The people that I think are lying, and then I get to, like I said, I'm uncomfortable with them. That's where growth and change is. That's how to get out of where I'm at. And it doesn't matter. It could be chronic pain. You could be talking about starting a business. That applies to like, you make how much money a month from your home? Like if I feel disgusted by that, I want to go sit with that person. I want to go be friends with them because I don't know how to do that. And frankly, I think you're lying. So come on, And a person who has a personal journey generally is pretty happy to share it because it is possible. The only people who think that kind of change is not possible are the ones who haven't done it yet.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure. We probably should wrap up now. Otherwise, we could probably talk for an hour.
Well, I'm really looking forward to talking about children's safety too, because how do we impart this stuff to our kids? How do we teach skills that we just frankly don't have?
Right.
It's possible.
We'll definitely have you on very soon. So where can we get more information about you and about what you do?
You can go to the company website is beatingdisaster.com. Like beating, BEATING, disaster, DISASTER. At that website, you can find training, online offerings. I think probably this audience may be most interested in, there's a free Facebook group that's called Mama Bear Prepared. You can search that on Facebook or type in group/Mama Bear Prepared. And that's a free Facebook group that is new and growing. And the purpose is just to show moms all of the areas where they have control. We talk about all the things like it's to get assurance that you're doing everything in your power to keep your kids safe.
Awesome. I will definitely go join that group because I need to see that because I've got crazy paranoia and feel out of control when it comes to my child and her safety.
Yep. Well, a lot of moms are like that. A lot of moms.
Yeah. Well, make sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any health, parenting, or life advice. For my freebie, which is 30 ways to relieve pain without taking a pill, go to www.ithursttomom.com/tips or at @ithursttomom on Instagram. If you have any comments, suggestions, or want to be on this podcast, just email me at ithursttomom@gmail.com. I wish everybody a blessed day and pain-free day.